The way we tell stories of sexuality has a deep impact on how comfortable people end up being with their own sexualities and desires. Heterosexual socialization begins at a young age, telling stories about the magic of heterosexual relationships. On top of this, many people with good intentions tell wounded tales of sexuality, thinking that this information is valuable in order to keep people safe from said dangers. What these people don't understand, however, is that solely telling the negative aspects of things like queerness or stories of inevitable sexual assault leaves people feeling afraid to express their true selves and leaves women feeling like there's nothing they can do to prevent rape and sexual assault. The way we discuss these topics matters. The concept of wounded truth generally refers to the often true negative aspects of things including queerness. These aspects include suicide rates of young queer individuals, as well as truths about parental neglect, violence, bullying, drug abuse, and general stigmas. Oftentimes, people with good intentions think that educating about these truths is important, if not necessary, in the path towards creating a more accepting and progressive society. However, painting queerness as an image of damage and pain leaves many children afraid to be honest about their sexuality. While violence does take place towards transgender individuals, conscientious storytelling could prevent future acts of violence. Acts of violence towards transgender individuals happen at high rates due to straight men claiming they felt deceived by a transgender individual's gender expression. Oftentimes, the news articles describing these murders paint the victim as being a deceptive gay man. Continuing to tell the story this way promotes a dangerous way of thinking, encouraging people to defend themselves from people whose gender identity doesn't match the sex they were born with. This especially encourages straight men to act violently against anyone who they feel has threatened their heterosexuality. These rigid rules of heteronormativity are primed to the masses at a very young age. G-rated movies are supposed to contain zero sexual material. However, the films are filled with stories of heterosexual romance, making heterosexual relationships out to be something that is magical and powerful. G-rated movies, including Disney fairy tales, for example, are some of the highest viewed movies, as all ages are permitted to watch them. At young ages, children are viewing these stories of life-changing romantic relationships solely between a masculine man and a feminine woman. Any relationship between characters of the same sex are nothing more than friendships and alliances. This non-inclusive and highly normative mode of storytelling can leave children feeling like their current or future sexual and/or romantic attractions are invalid and abnormal. This type of heterosexual socialization resulting from a lack of conscientious storytelling also takes place within the walls of many preschools. The preschool level of education plays a huge role in teaching children some of the basics pertaining to social norms and codes for acceptable behavior. In many preschools, various methods of this heterosexual socialization are performed by teachers, the facilitative approach being the more direct method via fairy tales and stories of heterosexual magical romances. Some preschool teachers even encourage relationships, hand-holding, and kissing between children of the opposite gender. Similar to the storytelling in G-rated movies, relationships between children of the same gender are not viewed or spoken of by the preschool teachers as anything more than a friendship, and crushes are only spoken of in a heteronormative manner. Telling stories of non-heterosexuality as something that's abnormal can make children and people feel that their desires are not natural and might even seek scientific explanations and cures to fit into our heteronormative society. Due to the way we discuss and view homosexuality as being abnormal, thus stigmatized, it's acceptable to look for the scientific roots and reasons for homosexuality, compared to essentially zero interest in the same research behind heterosexuality. Because of this, it's acceptable to search for a cure for homosexuality as long as stories and discussions of non-heterosexual sexualities are stories of sexual and social deviance. People will feel the need to fix and/or cure their sexuality, to which they will likely never feel cured. The way we view and discuss relationships can also leave people to be greatly discontented with the relationships that they form. While monogamy is the social norm for relationships, stigmas form around those who choose not to confine their own relationships to these rules. Stigmas for people who practice polyamory include beliefs of sluttiness, cheating, and jealousy. The strict practice of monogamy can leave people feeling unsatisfied with their partner, as they don't meet all of their expectations. This can also be hard on the other partner, as they might feel like they'll never be enough for the other. To fix this, members of the polyamorous community have been developing a vaster vocabulary to create a greater and deeper understanding of different forms of sexual and romantic relationships. Through conscientious storytelling of polyamory, people might decide to seek out multiple or different types of relationships to satisfy their different desires, instead of putting all of that pressure on one person. Because of the language we use to discuss gender roles and strengths as well as sexual assault and rape, many women feel like rape is an inevitable thing that comes with being a woman. This does not negate the fact that sexual assault and rape happens to all genders. In fact, discussing the issues of sexual assault and rape the way we currently do predominantly only conveys men as the perpetrators and that men are invulnerable to sexual assault, which is not true. When we describe rape and sexual assault as something that men inevitably carry out against women, a self-fulfilling prophecy manifests. That is, when women believe rape is inevitable, it is common that they freeze and get attacked. Elaborate stories are told of rapists hiding under women's cars to slash their Achilles tendon to spread fear of unpreventable attacks. While people telling these stories may think that they are trying to protect women from harm, this actually paints a picture of women being incapable of fighting back. Solutions to this involve changing our approach to rape prevention, teaching people not to rape in the first place, potentially through thorough, comprehensive sex ed that discusses consent and the law, instead of solely focusing on protection and aftercare. We should discuss these instances in a way that conveys women as being capable of fighting back. It would be beneficial to teach self-defense to anyone interested in communities and in schools. Many of the painful circumstances that manifest revolving around the topics of sexuality can be greatly improved simply by the way we discuss them through conscientious storytelling. This can take place by improving or adding to the topics of sexuality and comprehensive sex ed in schools' curricular. In everyday conversations as well as in classroom settings, we should challenge the current descriptions of gender norms that describe women to be weak and incapable of fighting against potential assaults. Not only will this encourage women to fight back, but it might also deter potential perpetrators from attempting to assault someone in the first place. Comprehensive sex ed and classes of sexuality should discuss the pleasures of non-heterosexual relationships and sex, instead of only telling wounded truths. It is equally as important to teach of the pleasure and happiness that comes with a healthy sex life that is true to one's desires.